Okay, good morning. Special thank you to Moti Zeitlin and to Tzvi Goldring and everyone else who are in the Sadrim, and a special thank you to Nachman and my Rebbe, Reb Chaim Kramer, and BRI. We're in Tinaina, in the second chelik of Likutim Run. We're in Torah Zion, and we're halfway through almost paragraph Vav, paragraph 6, where we're being introduced to Makifim. So what we've covered so far is only a true leader is one who has compassion to the furthest most extent. And what's the greatest compassion that's ever needed? And that is for Averas, for Avonos, for violations against Hashem. Because that's worse than Yisurin, that's worse than any other type of suffering, is one's Averas. And the only reason a person could ever actually do an Avera is because they lack das. So the job of someone who's truly compassionate is not just to give bandages and somehow the right medications, etc., or therapies. The real compassionate one is someone who actually knows how to give this person das in the first place to avoid Averas, or das after the Avera to know how to do Teshuvah. And that das is the das that Moshe Rabbeinu reminded us that we experienced at Har Sinai, and that is Hareta Ladas. You've been shown to know Ki Hashem Hu Elokim. Hashem is the power of all powers. Ein Oid Milvado. There are no other powers beside Him. So that's what we learned. And then Rav Nachman points out that even though you would think, okay, so if I don't have such a big tzaddik and manhig hador to help me, so what do? So it says every human being is capable of injecting das in each other simply through Torah, speaking Torah and Yirat Shemayim, all in Yanei Avodas Hashem, being mechazik each other, and in that sense, one is perpetuating one's own das in the world, which we said is the reason for the creation. The reason for creation is that human beings should have das, to know Hashem. So, I was just by Rabbi Arush on Shabbos, so he pointed out from Likuti halachas in Hilchas Nida, I think it was halacha base, that before Hakadosh Baruch Hu created the entire universe, and even before the first machshava, which was to have a Hakadosh Baruch Hu, which was to have Yisrael, the Jewish people, his first ever machshava was he's going to create emunah. So emunah was the first thing that was actually created in the entire bria, and it made sense as I pushed for a more explanation. The explanation, I think, sounds very logical. The whole purpose of the Bria is that the whole universe would exist for planet Earth, would exist for mankind, would exist for B'nai Dea, and the Das is, of course, Das Elokim, to know that Hashem exists. So Emunah is actually the real purpose of the entire Bria, and so that was created first. Then you've got physical human beings who've got a mind to be able to plug into Emunah. So this was the reason to have children in the first place. That's the real reason of Mitzvah Puravu. And then Rav Nachman in the last couple of paragraphs pointed out that even sharing your das of Emunah in Hashem and Avodas Hashem with other people, so that's also a form of actually bringing children into the world, bringing another person into the world, because you're perpetuating your own das after we leave this world. We actually continue our das through our children, our talmidim. And a talmid can be someone who's not specifically learned from us, just an encounter where two Jews meet and give each other chizuk. So that's where we're up to. And then Rav Nachman now dives into paragraph Vav, that the thing that we're actually doing when we speak to another Jew is we are so to speak emptying out our das, and that makes room, kaviyachol, so to speak, for a new level of das, which are called makifim. Makifim is really something that's surrounding. I'm calling it a context, that there's an additional context. So I gave a few examples. There's others that we can touch on. Learning Aleph Beis, until you know all Aleph Beis and all Nekudos, and then can read accurately. I think, wow, I finished all of Aleph Beis. But what you do next is learn Shroshim, and then prefix and suffixes. Each time you learn one new rule, you have entered a new hekef, a new makif, so to speak, a new context, where the more you learn, the literally exponentially your mind is able to access much more than you could access till now. So that's like on a very simple and academic level. There are other examples which we did touch upon a few of them, but even in the world of technology, which we're seeing exploding in front of our eyes, and it's been doing that for a couple of decades now. Some of us, I don't know if you remember ever fax machines. I think they're still on display in the Natural History Museum. But fax machines is a joke today. Beepers, I remember beepers. So and that was considered really cool and advanced at that time. We're so far past that, and now with AI, things are going really quickly. But the main point is that the more technology is able to access actual powers in the Bria, the more a human being should be able to have emunah pshuta, really simple emunah. When Hashem says He sees everything, He hears everything, and everything that we actually do and say and think, b'sefer nichtavim, is recorded in real time. It doesn't take a leap of faith to believe that. So then, once we can have an easier access to emunah, it becomes easier to start asking the most obvious questions. Did this supreme being, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ever speak to mankind? And if He did, show me the text. Oh, he was searching for a tzaddik from the time of Adam Rishon till Noach, till Avram Avinu, and then the search pretty much ended, and now Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Moshe Rabbeinu. As you see the context broadening and getting bigger and bigger, it becomes more and more obvious. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us at Har Sinai the Tarek mitzvahs, and through that we are actually able to have a direct relationship with the Bria, with the Bayra Olam Himself, and that's quite extraordinary. And it's dafka through the tzaddikim. So the broader our hekef, the more we are able to actually have a relationship with Hashem. Today, it used to be if you were having hisbodedus on the streets walking, people would look at you. Something's wrong with this guy. He's talking to himself. Today, when you see someone talking to themselves, and it could be in a lounge, it can be on the street, it can be in the airport. You realize, and you're looking for his what do you call it, the earbud, and because no one. Rav Nissim David said, today you can have a hisbodedus and no one could care less. They'll just assume you're speaking to someone on a device.
You know the famous story with Rabbi Yitzchak Shol Harkavi, when he used to take his, Chalamot, he would take his kids to like Great Adventures, one of these Chalamot places. Right. But he had to do his hisbodedus for the day. So those days we had the public phones with the booths. So he would go into the booth and hold the public phone for an hour, and he was just standing on the phone.
It's actually, I think that's actually conducive to talking to Hashem. I used to do that in airports when, not for his hisbodedus as much, but for Mincha Mariv. That's it was not less conspicuous, and I didn't have to think about what people might be thinking as they pass by, because I'm in a telephone book, so I was able to have much better kavanah on the phone. So yeah, I totally get that. I didn't verify this, but I heard about Rabbi Yitzchak Harkavi, Alav Shalom, that the moment Rabbi Nissim David Kivak knew that Breslov was real was when he saw Rabbi Yitzchak Harkavi dancing, and he saw that he had such a simple dveikus and such an ava. He says, "That's what I want." I heard that. I'm trying to remember who told me that in the name of Muslim David, but as much as when I next see him, I'll check that up. But that's an astonishing thought, that a person could reach so many high madregas, all from a moment of seeing someone dancing with simplicity and with an intrinsic joy. So we are in the second paragraph. We started the second paragraph. I'm just going to continue from there. In Vav, where we're talking about makifim. V'yesh kama bechinos b'makifim. We got the second paragraph.
Yeah.
There are a number of aspects with regard to these makifim. Makifim I'm translating at least as a context, and the broader the context, the bigger the picture you have. The bigger picture you have, the more meaning you have to what you're experiencing. Ki ma shemakif lezeh, for one person, what is his makif, hu bechinas pnimi etzel chaverei. For his friend, that's already something that the person has internalized. It's not a new insight to him. There's not a chidush, and it's for him pnimi. That means it's already inside him. Shuba madrega lemala memenu, because what he's hearing now, that's a madrega which is higher than what he had. V'chein lemala mala. This goes on and on and on. V'yesh seichel. There's even a mindset. Seichel we've translated as the part of the mind that weighs things up, evaluates. V'yesh seichel shu b'chinas makif lezeh. There's a logic to this. Ve'etzel acher zeh seichel hu namoch afilu b'chinas pnimi. For someone else listening to what he just heard from his friend, it's not only not an insight, it's less than the pnimi that he already has. I'm going to start calling Mr. A and B. I think it's going to be easier to follow who's who. So Mr. A is on a much higher level. When A and B have a conversation together, with regard to Yiras Hashem, Yiras Shamayim, umachnis boidasai, and A puts into B his das. Al yedei nichnas makif shaloi lifnim. So A's hekef, his insight, has now been, so to speak, downloaded into the headspace of Mr. B, and kaviach, so to speak, Mr. A, because he downloaded, he's actually got more, if you want to call it, memory space in his brain, in his mind, to receive something new. And that new is the makif that's encircling him, waiting for him to have the maturity to be able to be typhus, to have a grasp of a higher level of makif. V'chein lemala mala. This just goes on and on and on. Shekol echad lefi b'chinasei. Each person, according to whichever area he is holding on, umadregasei, and his level, nichnas makif shaloi lifnim. The makif that's waiting to enter his mind goes in. So on a very simple level, when a child has finished Aleph and then Beis, Gimel is the next Hekef. Dalet is the next one. And as he progresses, he has no idea. He won't be able to articulate. He's only 4 or 5 years old. He won't be able necessarily to articulate that what's coming up next is going to enable him eventually to actually have access to Chumash and Nach. When a person knows Tarek Mitzvahs, he may not chap that actually he's learning the headlines of all of Mishnayos. Mishnayos is a perush of Tarek Mitzvahs. When he's learning Mishnayos, he may not chap that actually what he's really learning is the skeleton of entire Shas Bavli Nushalmi, because they are a commentary. So each time you're increasing what you understand, you are also giving yourself access that when you're ready, you'll be able to understand much more. So there are many other examples. I'll probably give a couple of them before the end of today. Al Yadei. V'chein lemala mala, shekol echad levi b'chinasoi umadregasoi nichnas makif shaloi lifnim. So his hekef goes inside him. Al yadei shemedaber im chaveroi. Now when he speaks with his friend, v'talmidoi, and his student, umachnis boidasai, and the Rebbe or friend puts into his other friend his mind. V'zehu. Now Rav Nachman, this is where we left off last week. Rav Nachman is now going to give you a pasuk from the Torah that in his typical way will show you there's another way to read this pasuk that is not pashut pshat at all, but is actually a revelation of all the main points he's just brought to your attention till now. And that's the following. V'zehu dvarim lamed. This is a pasuk in Perek Lamed in the Torah, in Dvarim. Pasuk Yud Dalet till Tesvav. Ki karev elecha davar moed. This item is extremely close to you. Ki karev elecha davar moed. Where is it extremely close to you? Beficha, in your mouth, uvil vavacha, and in your thoughts. La'asai, say to do it. I don't want to translate it as heart because it's plural, and we only have one heart, so it doesn't really make sense to translate it hearts. But you should bring this in. You should say this with your mouth and in your thoughts in order to do it. What's the it? So we know it's Rashi and Ramban say the dava that is very close to you is in reference to learning Torah or Teshuvah. Now Rav Nachman points out the following: Ki karev elecha davar moed, hainu likarev elecha dava shu b'chinas moed. To bring close something which is moed, exceedingly far from you. That means the next hekef that you have no access to. To bring that close to you, b'chinas makifim, he's now showing you the word moed, which means exceedingly or a lot, is a remez to makifim, which right now are beyond me. Shehem ne'elamim urchoikim oid min adam. They are hidden, they are far in the extreme from a person. Ulekarvam elecha to bring them close into you, lachnisam bifnim, and bring them in, so it's a dava pnimi, it's actually internalized. What's the mechanic that actually brings a whole new insight into you, so you internalize it? Zeh talui beficha. This depends beficha. Now it continues the verse. Uvilvavacha, and it depends on your mouth, your thoughts. La'asoisa, to do it. So now he unpacks these words. Beficha uvilvavacha, your mouth and your thoughts. Zeh bechinas pi yidaber chochmos. This is the pasuk that he quoted much earlier. My mouth speaks wisdoms. The hagus libi tvunos, and the understanding of my mind, tvunos, has deep understanding. So it's my mouth which, when speaking to a friend or a talmid, hainu shigale chochmasoi, his mouth is revealing his wisdom. That's what your mouth is. Utvunasoi, and your understanding, l'talmidav, to his students. As we explained above, the zehu, now comes the last word, la'asoisoi. La'asoisoi, to do it. Bechinas ki'ilu asoi. So this is as though you made him. Asoi means made him. So la'asoisoi and asoi share the same three-letter root, asei. And as Rav Nachman brought much earlier in explaining the Gemara in Sanhedrin, Tzadik Tes, that when someone teaches their friend's child, it's as though you made him. You actually made, and the text proof for that is the Nefesh She'asu B'charan, when Avram and Sarah Menu taught Torah. Avram to the men, Sarah Menu to the women, and then when they left Ur Kasdim to go to Haran, they took with them all their students that they had made. The She'asu B'charan. And so Chazal tell us it's referring to the Oraisa. Look at the Targum on that pasuk in Perek Yud Beis in Parshas Lech Lecha, that they made them means they gave them their das, that Hashem hu Elokim ein od milvadai. Avram Avinu was one of a kind, totally. He was a monotheist. He believed only in one power that controls all powers. And as he was able to inject this chidush into the minds of others, that is considered as though he actually made them, literally made them. So there's a different Gemara, I think also in Sanhedrin Yud Tes, which we quoted, Ki'ilu Yaldo, it's as though you gave birth to. So this fits very nicely with what Rav Nachman was saying much earlier, is that when a person dies, they need to leave behind their das. How do we leave behind our das? Through children and through Talmidim. And even if Has V'Shalom, a person had no children or Talmidim, but everyone they ever spoke to, if they ever gave them chizuk in emunah, in Avas Hashem, in Yiras Hashem, in Yiras Shamayim, etc. So that is what we actually come into this world for, to become Bali Dasma ourselves, and to perpetuate that through giving it over to others. So Rav Nachman is now showing you with a play on the word la'asoisoi means that when your bilvavecha, your thoughts are coming out from your picha, your mouth, into the mind of other people. Now it's as though you actually made that person, because you gave them a new das. It's really quite astonishing how Rav Nachman is able to pull together different aspects, sew them into a fabric, and then show you where there's a pasuk that puts them all together. That's one of his many extraordinary talents. I'm saying it in a very poor way, but it is astonishing. Now, because of this, you're able to bring in the makifin and bring close and bring close makifim, which till now were in the word ma'od, exceedingly far from me. And now they become part of the person. He gets a whole new understanding. Sometimes a person gets an understanding from reading, or from a friend, or sometimes a psychologist or therapist that gives them a new insight into the dynamic in a relationship. So that becomes a new hekef that the person now realizes, oh, I never thought of that. For example, being done chavschus on another person, and then finding out that there's information that I was missing about that person's background or life, that had I known that, oh my gosh, not only would I have not been so judgmental, I would have been in total admiration that they didn't become a total basket case or a lunatic or just go out of their minds. And so it can often be one small piece of information, like a hekef, that a makif is beyond me, but when I get access to it, then the thoughts I had before of prejudging, and it was based on my experience, it was based on my interfacing with the person, that gets downloaded out, so to speak, from my mind, and now my mind can accept that, oh my gosh, there's a different picture here, and I wish I never judged him in the first place. So this can happen on many, many levels. A person learns a 1, 2, 3 ABC, and then they get a whole access to math, eventually to algebra and to quantum physics. But it has to start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 0. We might give you, hopefully I'll get to an example of that. Ulamala, any questions on these points so far? Any comments? So now we're going to enter a whole new thing here, and this is what really the crescendo of the Torah so far. It really is. We're entering a whole new world. It connects very much to the beginning of the first 2 paragraphs. Ulamala min hakol. So what would be the highest of all makifim? A hekef is a new context, a new insight, a new understanding that changes everything, opens up an exponential access that gives you a different way of looking at the world, or insights in Torah. Ulamala min hakol hem hamakifim ha'elyonim shel hacham hador. Above all other types of makifim that we are capable of entering, of accessing, are the makifim ha'elyonim, the elevated makifim of the hacham hador. Now it doesn't say hacham hador. It says hacham. It doesn't say Tzadik Emes. It says hacham hador. And now he adds on another, if you want to call it letters, the end of the name. So we've had Tzadik Emes. We've had. Now we've got Chacham Hador, and the next words are going to give us a little bit more of the profile, so we can unpack more about who are we talking about. Shehu HaRebbi Shebador. Now he doesn't say Rebbe, a Rebbe of the door, a teacher of the door. It's Ha-Rebbe of the door. It's the teacher of the generation. She'al Yedezeh HaRebbi VaHacham Shebador Oisek Lidab Im Talmidav Umachnis Bahem Dasai. So when now we're talking about a whole new caliber of human being that is Chacham Hador, the wisest person in the generation, but he's the teacher of the generation. So I'm going to touch on very briefly. The word Rebbe we usually translate just teacher. It doesn't really mean teacher, but because it comes from 2 letters Rav. I spoke about this, I don't remember when, but the word Rav means, you can help me, what's Rav mean? As a 2-letter root. A lot. Abundance. What does a Rebbe have to have an abundance of? Information.
Teachings, yeah. Knowledge.
Patience. Knowledge.
Kedusha, everything.
Kedusha, everything. A lot of you time. Abundance of a lot. Of everything that's good. So a Rebbe in a classroom, what does he have to have a lot of? Patience. Why does he need a lot of patience?
I'll tell you later.
Kids will drive you crazy.
Otherwise, you're going to go out of your mind. So I always say, if you want a crash course in midas, you become a Rebbe in a classroom, elementary preferably. You could try high school, but start with elementary. It's more of a crash than a course, but it's worth it if you really want fast track. But a Rebbe has to have a lot of patience, a lot of love for students, a lot of knowledge, Yirat Shemaim, Midas Tovos. There's a lot you can add. There's one thing that is the most important thing you have to have as a Rebbe. Rachmanis. So I'm going to reverse engineer this.
Common sense.
If we ask Shlomo Melech, what's the one-liner that's the mission statement for Chinuch Habanim, for educating our children?
Being happy?
So that's definitely over there. But as a posuk that Shlomo Melech might have said himself, which one verse would be the mission statement of Chinuch, of education? It's not a good translation, but I'm using it because that's what people are saying. Hanach lanar al pi darkai.
You got a piece of paper.
So the word chinuch has actually 7 meanings in Lashon HaKodesh. One of them is train. That's from Rashi, Perek Yudalet, Pasuk Yudalet, in Parshas Lech Lecha. When Avraham Avinu found out that Lot was taken captive, so he Vayarek Hanichav. He emptied out the best medrash. That was a time against him, the medrash tells us, because he emptied out the best medrash of all the Talmidim, 318 Talmidim. Some say it was just Eliezer, whose Gematria was 318. But he Yarek Hanichav, and Rashi points out Hanichav means they were his students who were trained b'mitzvahs. Actually, Medrash Haggadah says they were trained b'mitzvahs hamilchama. They were trained in combat.
So what does it mean?
So training. Chinuch means training. Rashi then adds, I'm not sure if this is an addition to the pshat, or rather it's an explanation of what does training mean. V'hu lashon haschalas ha'adam oikli be'umnus she'atid la'amoid ba. It's a very powerful language. What is chinuch? It's a language of starting, whether it's with a child, in a career, in the umnus, a training of some sort of skill that eventually he's going to stand in. And we've talked about the word stand is a very important language. In Lashon HaKodesh, it means independence. He can do it on his own. He's no longer apprenticing. While he's being in chinuch, he's training. So he's an apprentice to a teacher who's teaching him how to think, how to learn, how to ask questions based on text, how to research answers. So chinuch means training. It means starting again. And how many times? As many times as it takes till the kid can stand on his own. The greatest compliment probably a child can pay a mummy or a daddy or a teacher, a mora or a rebbe, is please rebbe, please abba, please mummy, can you show me how I can do this all by myself? Because that's our real purpose is to stand our kids up. How many times? As many times as it takes till they are independent. So that's two meanings of the word chinuch. Also comes from two letter root chen, which means connection. The connection starts in what I'm thinking and therefore feeling, and that's what comes out over my face. My facial expression, your face is visible. That means everything going on inside you is visible on your face. Your face. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
How does that use in that context? How does
it's Noach was found chen. I'm calling it a connection. It's not my lashon. It's actually I heard it from Rabbi Yaakov Greenwald of Lav Shalom, who said he heard it from the Stipler that chinuch is lashon chen, and chen is a kesher she'eina nireh. It's an invisible connection. What's the invisible connection? So he brought from the pasuk kamayim apanim lepanim kein leva adam la'adam. When you look at water, the water reflects your facial expressions exactly, no deviation. Kein lev ha'adam la'adam. So it's the mind and heart, your thoughts and therefore feelings of what you're thinking about this child. They are picking up on, just like I'm smiling, water smiles back. If I'm smiling inside, the kid picks up on that. That's why even Rambam says the only exception when kas can actually possibly could actually work is if you don't think or feel it. You're only kas apanim v'lo kas alev. Because then the child will not think, when I do that wrong, daddy gets angry. Because that's a terrible message. So next time I've got to make sure I don't get caught. The dad's not around. But then no lesson learned. But if he realizes, no, I know that daddy doesn't mean it, mommy doesn't mean it, Rebbe doesn't mean it, because I know I have this kesher that the Rebbe loves me. And so I can tell he's not really angry. Even when he looks angry, he doesn't mean it. So that you can get away with. That Rambam actually gives us the only exception to kas that ever works, because it's not real kas. Noach matzachein be'enei Hashem this was a perfect reflection, because the word chen, if you put the word chen and then put a mirror on the word, what will you read? Noach. So Noach was a very, very calm person, extraordinarily calm. Sefer Hareitim brings this. I think he quotes the Zohar from it, that because Noach was calm, it says 3 times his name Noach in the pasuk. Eila told us Noach, each tzadik tamim haya b'dor esam esa'elakim hisalech Noach. So 3 times he was Noach b'dasai, and Noach b'maisav, and Noach b'fiv. He was calm. He was not. I don't know how you say it in English. There's a Persian word that I use, delicate, but how do you say it in English? Impulsive, that's the word I'm looking for. He's not impulsive, he was calm. Even
rest.
Yeah, rest. He was not, so he knew how to take things calmly. So the point we're bringing out here is that a Rebbe in the classroom, if it's true that Hanach Lenar Al Pidarka, which means connect to the children, and it means train them, it means start again, it also means love, because the word Chain throughout Tanakh, you look at the word Chain, look at the Targum, Rachamin. Oh, it's compassion. And Rachamin is the exact same translation in the Targum for the word Ava. Wherever you see the word Ava throughout Tanakh, almost every time, I think it may be even every time, the translation is Rachamin. So Rachamin, or Rachamim, and Ava, and Chain are all three ingredients of the same recipe we all call love. So actually it means to love your children, connect to them, and you do it, the first place your kids connect to is your facial expressions. So of all these different meanings, what a really, really top Rebbe has to have, and this goes for every father, is to recognize that if every child is darkai, has a way, and I've got 25 kids in the classroom, how many darkos are there?
25.
So what does a Rebbe have to have? Rav, a lot of ways of reaching different minds. So the Rebbe, Shubadar of the generation, has to have a mindset that recognizes that every single person he interfaces with is a Olam Atzmai, his own world. And that Rebbe has to be able to actually connect with that person where that person is. Darkoi. Is this making sense? So the Rebbe of the generation, which was Moshe Rabbeinu, and even when he appointed Yeshua to be the next Manhig Hadar, what was the one thing of Chizuk that he told him? One words of direction. What did he tell him? I think it's Bamidbar Chav Zayin. I should have checked before. Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe lemor. Sorry, Vaydaber Moshe el Hashem lemor. Yivkait Hashem elokei haruchais lechol basa ish al ha'eda. He asked Hashem, please find someone who can work with every single person, because of the word ruchais, elokei haruchais. What's elokei haruchais mean? The power of all minds. Look at Rashi. That you're able to interface with every single person according to his mindset. So a real Rebbe is someone who every single child in the family, if he's a father, or a Rebbe in the classroom, feels that the Rebbe connects to them. Is this making sense? So the Rebbe of the generation, OMG, that's huge. It's someone who can reach every single Jew, no matter how high or low, and give them the hanhaga, the direction, guidance that's necessary for that person. So now I'll read the line again. Ulamala min hakol, above all other types of makifim, hema makifim elyonim. This refers to the highest possible contexts, if you want to call it, of the Hacham Hadar, the wisest man in the generation. Ezu Hacham. There's a few answers Chazal give us. The most famous one is Hacham, Ezu Hacham, Halomed Mikol Adam. There's nobody he can't learn from. So there's no situation he can't learn from, no person he can't learn from. Doesn't matter who it is. Jew, non-Jew, Gentile, male, female, child, adult, elderly. Everyone has something for us to learn from. That's one type of a Hacham. Another one is Royas HaNoilad. Noilat, he's able to anticipate the consequences of his decisions. And another one, what's another one? There's three. I've forgotten. More on Talmud, Daf Lamed Beis, and I've forgotten. That doesn't help. I know the page and I don't know what's written there. Right, okay, that's interesting. Forgotten. Shiur Rebbe Shabbatar, and he's the Rebbe of the generation. He can reach every type of mind. He's busy with his students, and he's able to imbue into them his das. Now, his makifim go inside the person he's talking to, This is getting into really deep waters, where Rav Nachman is pointing out that the makifim of the tzaddik, the Chochom of the generation, the Rebbe of the generation, these makifim, these incredible context of seeing a much bigger picture than your eyes and ears can see, that ability is corresponding to arichas yamim v'shanim, which is an expression the Gemara uses for eternity. He brings the text for this. Ki hamakifim shaloi, this Chochom Ador, this Rebbe Shebador, his makifim, hem bechinas olam haba, are really correspond. The word bechina, which comes from the word chein, also means connection. So it's connected to olam haba. Shehu yom shekuloi aruch. Olam haba is known as a day that is completely long. That means no end. It's everlastingly long. The brings from Gemara Kedushin Lam Mates and Chulin Kuf Mem Beis. Kisham hu lamala me'azman. There, it's way above time. So this is going to get into a little bit deep waters now, that there really only exists time in this world. This time was created for this world. It does not exist in Olam Haba. In Olam Haba, there is no time. So I'll try to explain this in a few moments. Let's do a couple more lines. Ki kol hazman shel kol ha'olam hazeh kuloi. All the time that exists in this physical world, ma shahaya, that means to say whatever happened, and when you say whatever happened goes right from the beginning of the moment of creation, uma shiyah, and what will be till the end of creation, hu kuloi ayin ve'efes neged yom echad. All of that time, nearly 6,000 years, is completely nothing and zero in contrast to one day of Olam Haba. Ve'afilu neged rega achas. Even in contrast to 1 second in Olam Haba, Shel Olam Haba, Shu Yom Shekula Aruch. So that doesn't mean that all time is constricted into 1 second. It's just an expression to tell you it doesn't even exist. Time does not exist. You and I experience time because we live in a physical space where, because of light, we can read time. And what I mean by that, there was a gentleman, I'll reveal his name in a few minutes. I think he was 16 years old when he was expelled from school. And the reason he was expelled from school, this is before ADD and ADHD had been discovered. Sorry. I didn't mean to be so honest. I beg your pardon. I'm sorry. If you don't trust me on that, look at Dr. B. Stein's book on the ADD, ADHD fiasco. And he shows you that the real real documentation that's behind all the research, inverted commas, for ADD, ADHD, which is claiming that there's an imbalance in the brain that can be rectified by medication. So he shows you that it's not real science. And the professors who promoted it.
Wait, the ADH is not real science?
ADD, ADHD.
That's not real science.
It's not the research to prove. See, I don't want to get into this now.
Shmuel is not shocked by this thing.
No, I'm very interested.
No, I know. I'm not going into it. I'm just touching it very briefly. In order for any doctor to be able to give medication, the person has to have a disease or an illness that now FDA will supervise that, because this is a real illness, it needs to be medicated. So now we have to create medication for the illness. So Dr. B. Stein, in his book, I think it's called the ADD ADHD Fiasco, he demonstrates that all the early science that came out to promote medication for this condition, to prove it was condition, had to be proven that the child or adult has an imbalance of chemicals in his mind, in his brain, and this will balance it out. So I'm not talking to anyone who's been on medications for this and found it really very helpful. But what I am saying, how do we get onto this? How did we get onto this? Time does not exist. Oh yeah, I know. There was a gentleman, 16 years old, and he was in school, very prestigious school, and he was thrown out because he was daydreaming. And this is before the days of ADD and ADHD was invented. So this gentleman, one of the reasons he was daydreaming is because he couldn't stop looking at the clock. So the professor assumed this was a high-paying school. You'll find out in a few minutes why I know. Assumed without asking, what are you doing? Obviously, he's like, just can't wait for recess. He's like counting the seconds. So he was thrown out of school, but what actually he was doing was the following. He was looking at the clock and he asked himself an interesting question. How come I can tell the time? The only reason I can tell time is because I got eyes, and light, which is reflecting off the clock to my eyes, I can see the minute or second hand moving around inside the clock. So he started to realize, 1 second, light travels at 186,000 miles per second. So what would happen if I were traveling a little bit faster than the light particles that are bouncing off the clock into my eyes and into my retina, then interpreted in my mind? What would happen if I would be traveling faster than the speed of light? And so he came up with an interesting theory that time would slow down, and so would people's age, where we would age slower. So his name was Albert Einstein, thrown out of school for daydreaming, where he actually, because the professor was so boring, actually the real as far as I know, the real definition of a professor is someone who speaks in other people's sleep. So that was Albert Einstein. But the point is, he proved that time is only relative because of light and space. So light is a particle that you and I actually can determine what we are looking at because of the sun or artificial light. But really, in a world which is not physically limited, Olam Haba, you don't need time. Hashem created time for this world. It doesn't exist in Olam Emes. So this is something that our minds can't properly grasp, because we're always measuring everything by time and space. So when I arrived here, it was 1 minute to 11, I think. And when I leave, it'll be somewhere around 12 something. So I know that an hour has passed, and I can determine what was said, what interaction was going on. So that is measured in a time space. But in Olam HaEmes, you don't need space. There is no space. And therefore, the only thing that exists, which Rav Nachman is going to touch on right now, is there are makifim. There are new, hekef again is like a circle, a total encirclement. There is a new world you enter into each time, and you get a whole new context, which is exponentially greater than the previous one. It is so powerful that everything you knew before this new hekef is dumped. It's completely like, wow.
When you get to the next world?
Yeah, one of my best, which I shared with you briefly. One of my best analogies for this is the child in a womb. At the moment of conception, under a microscope, a child is only a brain and a heart, and that brain and heart, which are connected, you can actually see the connection under a microscope. The child,
as soon as the conception, like immediately.
Yes, that's what inside the semen, the seed. You'll see a brain and a heart that's connected. You can actually see the heart pumping, and over the next 40 days, the brain and heart creates your entire skeletal system, and your muscular system, and your nervous system, and your respiratory system, and your lymph system. Every system in the body, and then all the limbs, all the organs, everything, and that's pretty remarkable. Over the next 9 months, this child is getting more and more developed, fed through its navel, from the umbilical cord, from its mother's food. And what ends up happening is, at birth, the child, whose entire world was the womb, now enters a new world, and that is the physical planet Earth, which is part of the galaxy known as the Milky Way, which is part of a universe of 2+ trillion galaxies, and the numbers keep expanding each time we improve our telescopes. So the piece I'm bringing out is what Shlomo HaMelech said. I think he brings it in Koheles Perek Zayin. I think it's Pasuk Aleph. Toiv Shem, Mishem and Toiv. A good ointment, good oil. Oil has a tremendous amount of qualities. It can provide light, warmth, it can provide medicinal qualities. Oil is very, very precious. Toiv Shem, Mishem and Toiv. But a good name, whoa. You acquired a good name in your lifetime, that's going to last a long time. Shmos Rabbeinu, Esther Malka, Mordechai Tzadik, Yosef Tzadik. The name you got for yourself is immeasurably greater than Shem and Toiv. Now, Shlomo HaMelech, remember Mishlei, and please be mock me, the Christian translation, which unfortunately is adopted across the board, is Proverbs. It's not accurate. It's not terrible, but it's not accurate, because mashal means a metaphor. Mishlei Shlomo, that's how Shlomo HaMelech starts it. These are mashalim. So by telling you something that you can grasp, I get that. This person had a good name in his lifetime, and it lasted into now, hundreds or thousands of years later. And that is far, immeasurably greater than Shem and Toiv. The Yom HaMaves. Now you're ready for the next part of the same pasuk. The day of death. Oh no, it's gone. No. Oh no. Miyom Hivaladai is greater immeasurably than the day he was born. Because the day he was born, that embryo, now a fetus, a child, comes out of the womb, and his eyes open for the first time ever, his mouth opens for the first time ever, takes in a cocktail of oxygen the first time ever, his legs unfold, eventually he'll be able to walk as soon as he's flexed his muscles. It'll take a while, but eventually he's going to be able to walk, and he'll transport his body wherever he wants to go. His eyes can feast on whatever he wants to feast upon, and his ears are taking in every sound, his eyes are taking every image, and over the next 2 years his brain is extremely busy organizing all the information that he's taking in through his ears and through his eyes. In fact, the ears are more important than the eyes. Oizen is a lashon aleph, which is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, zan. Hashem feeds your mind through your ears. Because where your eyes see, don't believe. Lo taturu acharei einechem. Don't trust your eyes. Unless you've got enough Torah to tell you what you're looking at, and then you can make sense out of it. But otherwise, be very, very careful. Ask your mum, ask your dad, ask your Rebbe, what is what I'm seeing? Because that's going to go through your ears, and so your eyes and ears are helping you understand this world. So comes along Shlomo HaMelech and tells you, when the baby comes into this world, he enters a world which is immeasurably larger than the womb. I'm not talking about landing men on the moon, possibly even on Mars one day, but this universe is so huge. Comes on Shlomo HaMelech and tells me, but the day of death, when the body is buried in the ground, is immeasurably greater than the day of birth, because the mind continues forever, reunites with Hashem in LM2 Emes, and there you start to enter whole new makifim. So the womb is a hekef, a makif, and so is Olam Hazeh, a makif. But when you leave this world into the next, oh my gosh, that is huge. So that's what now Rav Nachman is helping us understand, that the Chacham HaDor, the Rebbe of the Dor, he is bringing, when he's talking to his Talmidim, he's bringing Olam Haba, which he's connected to, Arach Yamim, he's connected to that world where there is no Zman, and he's bringing it into your mind. So to see it in the words, V'afilu neged rega ech acha shel Olam Haba, shu yom shekulu arach, v'sham ein shum Zman. In that world, in LM2 Emes, there is no time. Ki hu b'chinas lemala me'azman. Olam Haba is above time. Rak seder hazmanim sheyesh sham, the sequence of times that exist in LM2 Emes, hem b'chinas hasagos shel makifim. It's not a time-bound sequence. There's no before and after. LM2 Emes is you're reuniting with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, and you are a chelik elokam mimal. That's the real you, your soul, which powers your mind, which powers your ability to think. And then when you're getting the thoughts of the tzaddikim, of Torah, Nach, Mishnah, Gemara, Shulchan Aruch, and Sifrei Chasidus, etc., you're getting the hekef, the makifim of the tzaddikim, who are preparing you that when you're reunited with the power that powers your neshama, Kadosh Baruch himself, so now everything is just going to be new levels of hekef, of makifim, that person will be entering into. But the starting point is down here. But how do we get even some sort of a grasp on that? So he's telling you it's the Rebbe of the generation who's able to reach all types of minds, all types of children. Rav Nachman was extraordinary. He was able to have a very close kesher with the worst imaginable maskilim, apikosim. They were so far gone that they'd even made a shavua never to say Hashem's name. They made a shvur deraisa not to say Hashem's name. I'm not quite sure I understand that exactly, but maybe it means they know Hashem exists and they're still rebelling against him. And Rabbeinu Zal, he would play chess with them. He took his jacket off. And when Rav Nosson and Rav Naftali once came inside and they saw him playing chess, and they were laughing together. It was shocking to them that their Rebbe would be lowering himself so low. There's no lowering. If a person's da'wah to Hashem, it doesn't make a difference where he is. In that moment, okay, his kavanah is to makar of these people, but he wouldn't talk Torah with them. He refused to talk Torah because that's not the level they were on. And if he did, it would probably blow their minds, meaning give them more reason to be apikorsim. So he understood the first thing you've got to do is build rapport. And once you build rapport, once you connect, then that connection is where you're able to enter into their minds something. And Rav Nachman, at one point in his life, he said, "You know what? Everyone's so falling asleep. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start telling stories to wake you up." So he told stories that on surface reading are pure fairy tales. There's nobody on planet Earth who's going to have an objection to that. The most popular words in world history are "once upon a time." That wakes everybody up. One kid once asked his dad, "Dad, is it true that the most popular words in history is once upon a time?" He says, No, son. The most popular words in history, four most popular words in history is, if voted, I promise. So he said, the kid wanted to know what are the full words of a fairy tale. He said, no, it's if voted, I promise. So I personally hate political jokes because I've seen so many of them get elected. So I think I shared that one before. I don't remember. Okay, so in LM2, there's no time. And what we're saying here is that the highest level of receiving makifim while in this world is connecting through a tzaddik who's already there. And he is actually connecting you to that world and is able to bring those makifim down to the lowest level. So, sheyesh makifim shem bechinas yamim. There are makifim which actually correspond to days. Days are 24-hour periods multiplied. V'yesh makifim shem bechinas shanim. There are certain types of makifim which would correspond to years, which is way more, exponentially 365 days per year, and we're talking about shanim at least 2 years, so that's already 700 plus of the original number. Bechinas tkufos hayamim, which is corresponds to tkufa. Tkufa is a period, not necessarily defined. Hayamim of days. This is brought from Shmuel Aleph, Perek Aleph. Tkufus Hashanim is an expression there, which is in reference to Hannah. Hannah, she prayed for a child, and she prayed for a long time. How old was she when she gave birth to Shmuel Hanavi? And the answer is 130 years old.
Nice.
That is amazing. Every month? No, it's not this month. Every month she saw blood. Oh no, it's not this month. No, and she carried on davening. Whoa! Talk about not being miyayish. That's extraordinary. No wonder she gave birth to a Shmuel Hanavi that was considered, for that time, Keneged Moshe and Aaron combined. It's astonishing. So, Tkufas Hashanim, Tkufas Hayamim.
Moshe and Aaron combined?
Yes, but according to the status of the generation of who Shmuel Hanavi was an extraordinary. Yeah. Yeah.
I thought he's just in the same category.
Wow. Yeah, for the generation, it's like saying a certain tzaddik today would be compared to Moshe Rabbeinu. The elu hamakifim sheyesh sham, but the makifim that exist in Olam Emes, Hem Bechinas Seder Hazmanim Sham. That is a sequence of time zones, so to speak. V'hasalkus makifim halalu ze ika hatanuk v'hashashua shel Olam Haba. Those makifim, the more insights a person has into a broader picture of Hashem's perfect Hashgacha Pratis, for example, those makifim, that is the ika tanuk and shashua of Olam Haba. So I'm going to do my best to give a mashal that will hopefully help us to understand this a bit better. But we're only a few lines before the end, so I'm going to finish up. So you at least got this part, and then I'll touch on the mashal next week. Ashrei mi shezoicha lahasigam. Happy is the one who is deserving to reach these makifim. V'zeh bechinas tachlis hayediyah. This is corresponding to the purpose of knowing. And what is that? Ki tachlis hayediyah asher lo neda. The purpose of knowing is to know that I don't know. Is to know that we don't know anything. So it's difficult to explain this. I'm going to do my best. I'll give you one quick mashal. Let's say a child is learning the numerals 1, then he learns 2. He learns the quantity of each one using, let's say, beads. And now there's 3 beads for 3, 4 for 4. And he's starting to learn that 2 is actually 2 beads. So it's 2 times 1. Is this making sense? 3 is really a multiple of 1. So now it's 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. And this goes on, and he's getting excited because he's starting to understand that each one of these is a quantity, and he's learning the relative correspondence of one quantity to another. Accountants, by the way, are typically gifted in math, and math has to do with acute awareness of numbers and their numerical value. So someone, let's say an architect or accountant, very often they as children had an acute awareness of numbers. So once you're learning 1 through 9, you're getting really excited. This is amazing. And now, when you get to 10, the teacher says, this is 10. And she puts a 1. And this child would go, I've been there already. What are you doing? That was what we started with. And then what she put next to it is a 0. Oh, excuse me. Where's the next number? No, this is a 10. Yeah, but we're starting from the beginning plus a 0. We're going backwards. And then 11, 12, 13, okay, so I'm starting to get excited again. Comes to 19, I can't wait to what 20 looks like, and it's a 2. But that was just after the first one. And then a 0. What's going on over here? So I may not realize in my childish mind that I am climbing, so to speak, the ladder of mathematical quantities, but what I don't understand is why is it that I keep going back to the lowest number again and then a 0? Not realizing, of course, when you get to a million, a billion, a trillion, a billion times a billion, that it's the zeros actually count a long way. But what I'm bringing out over here is that as in the Olam Emes, the tachlis is to come to a point where I realize I really don't know anything. How's that possible? So a person, I give you this is a poor example, but I'll try to give it anyway. You're reading a book. It could be, I don't know if you're into Sherlock Holmes or Agatha Christie or Harry Potter. I don't know of any equivalent in Hebrew yet, except of course the Torah. But you're reading a thriller. And now Agatha Christie, even if you're a speed reader, you can't read it as fast as you would ordinarily do, because speed readers, what they learn to do is they miss out the vowels in a word, and they learn how to ignore the word and the. There's a lot of words that they can figure out from context because they read so quickly. But the problem with reading an Agatha Christie or a thriller book of, let's say, Sherlock Holmes, is that when you get to the last chapter, you discover that a very insignificant detail that turned out maybe somewhere near the beginning of the book or somewhere in the middle was pivotal in understanding a whole turnaround as to who the real criminal was. Or let's say, forgive me, in Harry Potter you got Snape. Everyone hated him. After I finished the 7th volume, he was my favorite character. Why? He was the worst, the nastiest person in the book, because he was actually a double agent, so to speak. He was against the evil wizard whose name was Voldemort, and he even was loyal to the mother of Harry Potter, and he gave his life. He sacrificed his life literally to fight the evil wizard, but no one knew this until the very, very end, to the extent that Harry Potter, who hated Professor Snape throughout his learning career, actually named his child, when he gave birth to a child, Albus Severus. Severus was the first name. The point is that there are points in the story where you and I are being taken for a ride, and we just assume this guy is bad. He's bad, and he comes from the bad wizards. He's Ra. We're entering Adar, and Adar is the Oasis Ein Dava Ra, and Purim is all about Hashem's perfect hashgacha. He's hiding in the story where the smallest detail changes everything. Everything matters. Every detail matters. So it's in LM2 Emes, the hasagas that we come to are so extraordinary that everything we thought was real till now actually gets dumped, and we enter a whole new. It's a little bit like going into a palace, and every single room is more outstanding than the previous room, and each room you just want to be in that room until you go into a new one, and then you can't believe that this room is so incredibly intricate in comparison to all the other rooms, and it's continuous that way, to the extent that you actually have no interest in the previous hasagas because they're minimal in comparison to the new ones. So what Rav Nachman is saying, the Tachlis Hayidiyah Shaloi Neder, is something that actually the Ramban is quoted in Rabbi Atiyah's Sefer. I'll quote it next week, Be'ezrat Hashem. He points out that this lashon is a lashon of, if in English you say, if I knew God, I would be Him. So we're talking about hasagas of Elokis that are coming so close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that each time we get a bigger understanding, it literally dumps everything we knew till now into insignificance. I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but we have no interest because you didn't realize that copper, well, it looks so shiny, but when I came to silver and I'm told what its value is and its buying power, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Then you get to gold, then you realize, oh my gosh, you drop the silver, you drop everything else that you had to know. I'm only interested in gold. So there's each new hasaga is more valuable, gives you much bigger hakefim, so to speak. So the person actually reaches a point of realizing that every time he's up to a new hasaga, he comes to this idea that Tachlis Hayidiyah, the purpose of knowing, is Shaloi Neder, is that I know nothing. And this was Moshe Rabbeinu. He couldn't stop being more and more humbled the closer he got to Hashem, because the more he knew, the more he realized there was more to know, and therefore whatever he knew was nothing. And in comparison to HaKadosh Baruch himself, of course, nothing I could ever know would ever be. So therefore, it's extremely humbling. The more we know, and realize the more we don't know. That's the best I can do for now to explain that. Reaching these makifim, which is a concept of being completely shashua. Shashua is a language of focus. Sha'ah means turn. When Hashem would turn his to the korban of Cain and Hevel, he refused Cain's and accepted Hevel. And the lashon is Sha'ah, and Shah means turn, to pay focus. Shashua is a double of that lashon, which means it's extreme focus, complete total focus. Rabbi Tia explains the word Shashua is that you're so fixated that the longer, so to speak, you focus on this, the more insights you get. So you actually cut out everything around you because you're so focused. I don't know if you've ever asked someone who's ever watched a movie, and they'll tell you that if they come out the movie theater at the end, sometimes it takes a few seconds to adjust that you're going back into a world that you think is real and just came from a movie which you just want it to continue. But it's how did I get to that?
Sure.
Sorry?
Shashua.
Shashua, thank you. Shashua is a total focus that mom could be screaming, Sapa! And the person is stuck on this device or a movie, and they hear nothing. How can it be? You're paying attention to every interface and conversation taking place in the movie. Yeah, because my mind is so completely, and this is a really important part, and my mind shuts out everything else. Shashua Olam Haba is such a fixation, there's no interest in anything else, and the longer you're fixated, the deeper you're penetrating more and more and more. And so Shashua really, really means, I can't have enough of this. And there's obsessive, exclusive focus. That's, I think, the best translation I can give. It's a pasuk from Tehillim, Perek Lamed Aleph, pasuk Chaf. Ma'arav tuvcha, how much abundance of your good has Hashem's good? How much is Hashem's good? Endless. How much abundance of your good, Asher Tzafanta, that you have hidden, li'recha, for the ones who fear you, the ones who are in awe of you. That's referring to those who earn Olam Haba. Ki hem rav tuv hatzafun v'tamun. This is the extremely abundant good that is hidden, tamun, concealed, satum, closed, me'ein kol, from the eye of every human being. Nobody can see this except those who are there. V'zehu ma'arav tuvcha ma daika. The language ma is specific, and we're going to see this is going to come up again and again in the future Torahs of this Torah, future paragraphs. Ki hem b'chinas ma. Ma means what? What is a question? When you ask what, that's an invitation to learn more, because you're asking something that you don't know yet. Bechinas ma chamita ma bishpashta. We'll have to look at this more next week. It's a language which is borrowed from the Zohar, which when a person goes through the different worlds and the 10 of all the different worlds, and he reaches Atzilus, and then he gets to the lowest part of Atzilus, which is Malchus of Atzilus, and he realizes, oh my gosh, I'm starting all again from Malchus, which is right at the bottom of the spheres. So that's the analogy I tried to give earlier of you're about to get excited about what comes after number 9, and it's a 1, followed by a 0. But because it's now 1 and 0, 10 is going to enter into the teens. I don't mean teenagers, I mean, but and then when you get into 20s and 30s, and the numbers keep on going. And math is eternal. It's a language Hashem gave to human beings. So the language there is ma chamisa. What have you seen? Ma mishpashta, and what have you investigated? From the lashon of fishfush means to search meticulously. What have you found? Meaning can you see you only just started, and you think you're at the top of you're just entering Atzilus, one of the highest worlds. Bechinas tachlis hayidiyah shel lo neda. You're entering the world of tachlis, of the purpose of knowing is to know you don't know anything. B'zeh bechinas shefa haketer. This is going into something called the flow that's coming down from the keter. Keter is a crown that's on top of the head. So that means, so to speak, on the highest level is of all the spheres is called keter, which is a crown. And the shefa that comes down from that crown is what we're now talking about. Ki keter hu bechinas makif. Keter is a crown which surrounds the head. And that's a bechina of makif. It's Kemoshikasov kitru etz binyamin. When this is from Shoftim Perakaf Pasuk Mem Dalet, when the Klal Yisrael went out to fight against Binyamin because of a terrible crime that they did, and they defended, and they were chayav misa for. At one point, Bnei Yisrael surrounded Binyamin, and the language there was kitru et Binyamin. They surrounded, learned from the language of Keter. Keter is a crown because it's completely surrounding. So we'll dig a little bit more next week in this last 8 or so lines. I wanted to finish the Davar Shalom at least. Any questions? Any comments?
Yes, there was a question. I don't know. I'm sorry, but all of a sudden the mic stopped working and they couldn't hear. But someone did ask a question.
Okay.
What is the Rebbe saying? When we're saying Yom, like say Yom Shekulei Arach,
yes.
Yom means a day,
yes.
which is mashma that there's additional day or another day. But he's saying it doesn't actually mean a set amount of time because it's infinite. The time is just. So
he quoted the Gemara, which Rebbeinu Zal didn't go into the Gemara, but it's quoted in the parentheses. The Gemara talks there in Kiddushin about the famous story of a child whose father told him to go up a ladder on a tree and shoo away the mother bird. So now he's getting 2 of the few mitzvahs in the Torah that Hashem dictated to Moshe Rabbeinu. You're promised Arichus Yamim. So Arichus Yamim, you're telling me that in this world, so that means I'm going to live a long time. This kid fell off. He shooed away the mother bird. He fell off the ladder and died. So a guy once, he fell off a 60-foot ladder. So they said, "Oh my gosh, were you injured?" I said, "No, it's just the first rung I fell off." So remember, I once played American football, and I got really badly injured. They said, "What happened?" I said, "I fell off the bench." They asked me, "Which position did you play?" I said, "I was the drawback."
Okay, so there was a question.
So in answer to this question, Arichas Yamim, so the Gemara concludes, here's a proof that when it's promising you Arichas Yamim, it's not talking about Olam Hazeh, it's talking about Olam Haba. So Arichas Yamim is a language that is borrowed to in human language to refer to eternity.
Thank you.
Okay, so there was a question. If time does not exist in the Olam Emes, why is time so significant in this world, with our actions being limited to certain times?
Yes, it is significant because Hashem gave us a Torah that actually much of its fulfillment depend on time. Shabbos, Yom Tov, when you can put on tefillin, we don't put on tefillin at night, etc. So it's a world where Hashem wants us to live within the confines of time, and time has its own confines: morning, evening, and there's different. Until when is another three answers. There are time spans all throughout a person's life, and you go through the 28 ace of Shlomo HaMelech. I think it's in Perek Gimel of Koheles. You'll see there that at each tkufa, the ace leiled, ace lamus, ace lehov, ace milchama, etc. So we're living inside time in this world. It doesn't exist in Olam Emes, but it's a creation that Hashem literally created in order for a person to function within those confines. Like space is also a place that we live in. A tzaddik who's on the level of what's being described here lives beyond that. So, for example, the Baal Shem HaKadosh, he was able to see thousands of miles away, literally. There's even stories of the Baal Shem Tov that he was in two places simultaneously. So one person, he was listening to the Shiur on the Motzei Shabbos, and he left the Best Medrash. The Baal Shem was giving a Shiur in the Best Medrash. He left his Best Medrash and he went next door where the Balabatim were learning Mishnayos or something. I can't remember what they were learning, and he saw the Baal Shem Tov was learning with them. So we went quickly back in Tel Aviv, and there was Baal Shem Tov was there too. So there's such a thing as living, so to speak, already in Olam Emes, where time and space you actually control. So that is something that's like beyond us mortals, but Tzadik Emes, it's something they can actually relate to. So you have someone like Rabbi Shimon Morgenstern, who is extremely careful with his eyes. So like Rav Nachman says in Reish Nun Dalet, that if you've got very tahar eyes, you can see things that ordinary human beings cannot see. Rav Nachman was able to read on the forehead, even at a handshake, but he could read from the forehead all the person's, not just averos of his lifetime, every single gilgul he was ever in. The Arizal was able to do that. People knew that if you go to the mikveh, all your averos are wiped off your forehead. So one person went to the mikveh just before he went in for a yechidus with the Arizal, and he entered within the half hour after coming out of the mikveh, and the Arizal said, "Your averos are so bad, they're sticking out." But so tzaddikim have different eyes. They have completely different eyes. And they're beyond space and time. I hope that helps answer that question.
I don't need just to clarify, the Indian of the tzaddik being, or the Chochom Hador being the one who's kind of spanning all these makifim, and then
yes,
how does that relate to us? Like, does that, by connecting to him, we kind of enter that realm?
So there's Hashem wants to bring down the most blessing he possibly can, shefa, good, upon a person. And it's so interesting that even Hasidus got a lot of rap at the beginning, and I think less so today, but it's so interesting that in the world of Hasidus, it's completely miyusut on Torah, 100%. So for example, when right at the beginning of the Torah, of the intro of Avram Avinu, who was the first real Tzadik Emes, so to speak, to really build a momentum, because Adam Rishon blew it from eating from the tree. He was supposed to be the Tzadik Emes. Noach blew it because he did not daven to save the whole world. But Avram Avinu he was the first one to get that real, so to speak, trophy of Tzadik Emes. Then Yitzhak and Yaakov, going further down, Moshe Rabbeinu, who's way above in a certain sense because he put his whole life on the line. Avram Avinu just bargained to save all the Rishonim and Tzadikim in Sodom, but he didn't say, if you don't listen to me, take me first. But Moshe Rabbeinu was completely new. Avram Avinu, it says of him in Perek Yud Beis, when we first almost introduced to him, he was introduced in Perek Yud Aleph right at the end, but in Perek Yud Beis, in Pasuk Gimel, I will bless those who bless you. Those who curse you, I will curse. V'nivruchu v'cha, and will be blessed in you. Don't say bachem. It's not plural. One person through you will be blessed. Kol mishpachos ha'adama. You look at the Rishonim. Mishpachos, it translates as families, but it's referring to every nation of the entire world. So every human being is receiving Hashem's blessing, so to speak, through one person. So you're 100% correct. By connecting to a Tzadik Emes, one is actually getting, I don't know if it's a fair analogy, but you're getting an attorney who has the power to get the judge to acquit and bring down shefa to this person, as opposed to dinim. It was once asked of Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Vadia Yosef, why he would give a slap across the face. What's the makar for that? Because you're not allowed to hit another Jew. Can he be called a Rasha just for lifting up your hand? So it's a serious matter. So he says he has a Kabbalah that if you're a tzaddik and you give a patch on the cheek of a Jew, you are mitigating dinim against him. You're shutting up kitrugim. Because a tzaddik hit this yid. So it's a big Indian to get. I heard that from Dayan Rabbi Elgrod. He told me that himself, that he heard it. He asked Rabbi Vadia Yosef why he does that. So if you get a schlep from... So the tzaddik is able to bring down things that I don't have access to. And I can go to a Rosh Yeshiva, that's very nice. When you go to a Tzadik Emes, it's a whole different dimension.
Could we experience this consciously, or this is on a super conscious level?
There are people who probably do actually experience a difference. People would say of Rav Nachman, did you ever see him do a moifes? So Rav Nachman did do moifes, but he actually davened they should be forgotten. So there are a few that have been recorded, but he himself, he was extremely adamant not to become one of those tzaddikim who was known for their moifdim, because please be mochamid for putting it this way, it injects yush in people. Because I know I'll never be on that level, so I'm a nobody. And what Rav Nachman wanted people to know is that nobody should ever claim that he got to where he got to, either because he's an extraordinary neshama, or because he's the great-grandson of the Baal Shem Tov. He said it all came from one thing, effort. It only came from effort. And what was the main effort? Tefillah. And it's not too much Shmoneh Esrei, it's about talking to Hashem. That's what Rabbi Arush talks about all the time. And any human being has that same access. So Avram Avinu was constantly talking to Hashem. Sarah Meinu was constantly, she was on a higher level of Nevuah. So yeah, people do experience a difference from his gushes to a tzaddik. So I think maybe you can help me. Which Talmud of, I think it was a Talmud of Reb Nosson, was asked, did you ever see any moifdim by Reb Nachman? So he said, what are you talking about? I'm a moifis, meaning the fact that he became a tzaddik from following the tzaddik, that's the biggest moifis. So I do believe it's something that a person can consciously experience, literally.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you everyone for joining.
Yes.
Sorry everyone for the hiccups during our